Astral projection, the practice of separating the soul or consciousness from the physical body and traveling through different planes of existence, has fascinated humanity for millennia. Though it may seem like a modern phenomenon, references to astral projection appear in ancient cultures and spiritual traditions across the globe. The concept of the soul leaving the body is not only a central tenet in many mystical and esoteric systems, but it is also a practice that was actively pursued by ancient civilizations. Understanding how these early cultures mastered astral projection provides fascinating insights into the spiritual practices and mystical beliefs that have shaped human consciousness throughout history. The earliest recorded mentions of astral projection appear in ancient Egyptian texts, but references to the concept can also be found in Hinduism, Buddhism, Gnosticism, and Greek philosophy. Though the term astral projection did not exist at the time, the idea of soul travel and out-of-body experiences was pervasive. The fundamental belief that humans were more than just their physical bodies, that they had an eternal soul capable of transcending the earthly realms, shared across various ancient cultures. In ancient times, the soul was often seen as capable of leaving the body to explore other realms of existence. This journey was typically viewed as both a spiritual experience and a means of accessing hidden knowledge. It wasn't only considered a metaphysical journey, but also a pathway to enlightenment, wisdom, and communication with the divine. In ancient cultures, astral projection was not just an altered state of consciousness. It was considered a necessary tool for spiritual growth and understanding. In ancient Egypt, the practice of astral projection was deeply intertwined with the spiritual and religious beliefs of the time. The Egyptians saw the soul as a multifaceted entity, capable of leaving the body to traverse the spiritual realms. This belief was not only a part of their view of the afterlife, but was central to their understanding of the human spirit's journey and evolution. In the Egyptian worldview, the soul was comprised of several components, including the Ka, Ba, and Ak. The Ka represented the vital life force, the essence that lived on after death, while the Ba was connected to the individual's personality and could leave the body during sleep or moments of deep spiritual insight. The Akh, often considered the most divine aspect of the soul, was the enlightened spirit capable of ascending to the divine realms. This concept of the soul's journey was not confined to death, but was part of the Egyptians' beliefs regarding spiritual ascent and transformation. The practice of astral projection in ancient Egypt was often closely linked to the rituals surrounding death and the afterlife. The Book of the Dead, an ancient Egyptian funerary text, describes the journey of the soul after death and includes references to the soul leaving the body and traveling through various trials and realms. This journey was seen as a process of purification, where the soul faced various challenges, including judgment by the gods, before it could achieve immortality and union with the divine. The Egyptian priests, particularly those associated with the temples of the gods, were believed to have mastered the art of soul travel. They would often enter deep trances during religious ceremonies and rituals, which allowed them to separate their consciousness from their physical bodies. This practice was not just about spiritual exploration, but was a means to commune directly with the divine. Astral projection was a tool used to gain divine knowledge, communicate with gods and spirits, and experience the cosmic realms. The role of initiates and rituals. Priests and spiritual initiates underwent rigorous training to master the techniques necessary for astral projection. These practices were considered sacred, and those who could master them were believed to have a direct connection to the divine. Initiates would often engage in rituals involving meditation, chanting, and breathing techniques to enter altered states of consciousness. These practices were designed to purify the mind and body allowing the soul to transcend the material world and explore higher spiritual dimensions. One of the most significant aspects of astral projection in ancient Egypt was the belief that it could help the soul achieve enlightenment. This was often symbolized by the journey of the soul in Egyptian mythology, where the deceased would navigate through the trials of the underworld, Dua, and ultimately be judged by the god Osiris. If successful, the soul would achieve a state of divine transformation, symbolized by becoming an Akh, an enlightened spirit capable of eternal life in the presence of the gods. The Ka and Ba would continue to exist after death, but the ultimate goal for the soul was to join with the Akh. This union was not just a physical resurrection, but a spiritual ascension that could only be achieved through mastery of the astral realms. This understanding of the soul's journey echoes the deeper esoteric meaning of astral projection, the belief that the physical body is merely a vessel for the soul, which is capable of transcending the material world. Astral projection and the afterlife. The Egyptians believed that the soul's journey after death mirrored the experiences of astral projection during life. The rituals of embalming and the burial practices associated with the afterlife were designed to ensure that the soul would be able to travel to the afterlife and return to the divine. The deceased would often be buried with ritual items, amulets, and spells designed to guide their soul through the spiritual realms. The pyramid texts and the coffin texts, ancient Egyptian scriptures that preceded the Book of the Dead, also reference the out-of-body experiences of the soul. The deceased was believed to be able to travel the stars, communicate with the gods, and attain divine knowledge through this process. These texts describe the soul's ascent to the heavens, where it would join with the divine light of the sun, represented by Ra, the sun god. Astral projection in this context was not just a form of spiritual exploration, but an essential part of the death and rebirth cycle. The rebirth of the soul through astral projection reflected the Egyptian understanding of the eternal journey, where the soul could transcend physical death and continue its journey toward ultimate spiritual enlightenment. The idea of the soul's separation from the body and its subsequent journey to higher realms was also an integral aspect of the spiritual and philosophical thought in ancient Greece and Rome. Although the practice of astral projection wasn't as formally codified in these cultures as it was in Egypt or India, the concept of the soul leaving the body and experiencing other planes of existence was deeply woven into Greek and Roman philosophy and mysticism. In ancient Greece, the belief in an immortal soul and its potential for separation from the body can be traced back to Pythagoras and Plato. Pythagoras, the famous philosopher and mathematician, is often credited with introducing the idea that the soul could achieve spiritual purity and enlightenment through practices like meditation, asceticism, and the study of the heavens. Pythagoreans believed that through disciplined spiritual practices, individuals could elevate their souls and experience divine knowledge directly. These practices, along with numerology and astronomical studies, are thought to have laid the groundwork for later interpretations of astral projection in both philosophical and mystical contexts. Plato, one of the most prominent philosophers in ancient Greece, explored the idea of the soul's immortality and its ability to transcend the physical body. In his dialogues, particularly the Phaedo, Plato presents the idea of the soul's ability to leave the body upon death and travel to the realm of the forms, where it could access eternal truths. For Plato, the soul's journey was one of purification, escaping the confines of the physical world and returning to a state of divine knowledge. Though this concept was not an explicit reference to astral projection as we understand it today, it highlights the ancient Greek belief in the soul's independence from the body and its ability to ascend to higher realms. The influence of Orphism and mysticism. In addition to the philosophical schools, Orphism, an ancient religious movement based on the teachings of Orpheus, the legendary poet and prophet, played a significant role in shaping Greek mystical practices, particularly with regard to the soul's journey. Orphic traditions emphasize the purification of the soul and its ultimate ascent to the gods. These teachings often involve practices similar to astral projection, where the soul was believed to be capable of leaving the body during ritualistic states or sacred visions. Orphic mysticism included the belief in the immortality of the soul and the need for its liberation from the physical world. Initiates underwent rites of passage which may have included intense meditative states or ritualistic fasting that were designed to bring the soul closer to the divine realm. The goal was to achieve spiritual enlightenment through these practices, a belief that is closely aligned with the concept of astral travel, where the soul transcends its earthly form. Astral projection, in this sense, was seen as a spiritual tool for understanding the cosmos, communicating with gods, and experiencing divine truth. Orphic initiates would often undergo these practices to gain access to higher knowledge, and their sacred texts reflected this journey into the unknown, with detailed descriptions of the soul's ability to navigate spiritual realms. Astral projection in Roman mysticism and cults. In ancient Rome, the practice of astral projection wasn't as formally recognized in the same philosophical and religious context as in Greece. But the mystery cults that flourished during the Roman Empire were highly influenced by Greek mysticism and Egyptian spiritual practices. The most notable of these were the Eleusinian mysteries, which had their origins in Greece, but spread to Rome and became a significant part of Roman religious life. These rites, dedicated to the goddess Demeter and her daughter Persephone, involve themes of death, rebirth, and the soul's journey to the afterlife. The initiates of the Eleusinian mysteries underwent elaborate rituals, which included consuming a sacred drink, possibly containing psychoactive substances, that was believed to open the door to spiritual realms and facilitate communication with the divine. While these rituals may not have directly involved astral projection, they share similarities with out-of-body experiences and altered states of consciousness. The aim was to give the initiates access to hidden knowledge about the nature of existence and the afterlife, aligning with the idea of spiritual ascension and soul travel. In ancient India, the practice of astral projection has deep roots in the spiritual traditions of Hinduism, Buddhism, and yoga. These practices view the physical body as a vessel for the soul, which is considered eternal and capable of transcending the material realm. One of the key concepts in these traditions that directly relates to astral projection is the understanding of the chakra synergy centers within the body that are believed to influence both physical and spiritual well-being. The chakra system is central to the practices of yoga and meditation, and it provides the framework for understanding how the body and mind interact with the spiritual realm. In traditional Indian thought, the chakras are seen as the gateways through which the soul can leave the body and enter higher states of consciousness, including the astral plane. The chakras are not just physical, but are also deeply connected to the energy body, which allows for astral travel when properly awakened or activated. The first chakra, known as the Muladhara or root chakra, is located at the base of the spine and is associated with the body's basic survival instincts. As one progresses through the chakras, they move through levels of consciousness, with each chakra representing a different aspect of human existence: security, creativity, love, communication, intuition, and spiritual enlightenment. When the energy of the chakras is balanced and aligned, the practitioner is able to access higher consciousness allowing the soul to separate from the physical body and explore realms beyond ordinary perception. In Hinduism, this ability to transcend the body and achieve spiritual liberation is referred to as moksha, or the union with the divine. Astral projection is considered an essential part of this spiritual journey. The practices of meditation, pranayama, breathing techniques, and dhyana, focused concentration, are all designed to clear the mind, open the chakras, and allow the soul to ascend. By reaching higher states of awareness, a practitioner can experience out-of-body travel the soul, leaving the physical form and journeying through the universe, encountering divine beings, and gaining access to eternal wisdom. In Buddhism, similar practices are employed to achieve spiritual enlightenment. The practice of mindfulness and meditation in Buddhism helps practitioners focus their minds and quiet their thoughts, allowing them to enter altered states of consciousness. Through meditation, Buddhist monks have been known to experience states of lucid dreaming and astral projection, where they journey through the realms of existence and interact with celestial beings. These journeys are considered essential for attaining nirvana, the ultimate state of enlightenment, which requires the transcendence of both the physical world and the cycle of samsara, continuous cycle of birth, death, and rebirth. The chakra system's influence on astral projection is deeply rooted in the belief that the human being is not just a physical entity, but also a spiritual one. The chakras act as energetic portals, allowing the soul to leave the body, but they also serve as instruments for spiritual purification. Through specific practices, such as Kundalini awakening, which involves the rise of spiritual energy through the chakras, the practitioner can experience deeper levels of consciousness. When the Kundalini energy is awakened at the root chakra and travels upward through the chakras, it is said to facilitate spiritual enlightenment and provide the necessary energy for astral projection. Ancient Indian yogis and mystics were believed to have mastered these techniques. They spent years in meditative silence, concentrating on their inner energy and channeling their consciousness into higher realms. By mastering the flow of prana, life force energy, they could achieve deep states of altered consciousness that allowed them to travel through the astral plane, encountering divine entities, and even predicting future events. For these spiritual practitioners, astral projection was not just a mystical experience, but a tool for gaining divine insight and understanding the secrets of the universe. The Tantric tradition in particular emphasizes the use of mantras, visualizations, and sacred rituals to activate the chakras and facilitate soul travel. In Tantra, the goal is to awaken the divine energy within each individual, allowing them to connect with the cosmic forces that govern the universe. By aligning the chakras and harmonizing the physical and spiritual bodies, practitioners believed that they could access higher dimensions of reality, including the astral realms, where the soul could travel freely. Astral projection in ancient cultures was not a spontaneous phenomenon, but a deeply ritualistic and carefully orchestrated practice that involved specific tools and ceremonial acts. The use of these sacred instruments and ceremonies was designed to help the practitioner transcend the physical world and access higher planes of existence, allowing the soul to travel freely and gain divine wisdom. These tools range from ritualistic objects and sacred plants to symbols and sounds, all carefully selected to facilitate the journey of the soul. In ancient Egypt, the practices of astral projection were tied closely to their religious rituals, particularly those surrounding death and the afterlife. Funerary rituals were designed to ensure that the soul of the deceased could safely travel through the underworld, known as duat, and reach the divine realm. These rituals were complex, involving elaborate ceremonial tools such as amulets, incense, and ritual clothing, all used to protect the soul on its journey. The Ankh, the Egyptian symbol of life, was often used to represent the eternal soul and was thought to act as a key to open the passage between worlds. Likewise, scarabs, which represented rebirth, were used in burial practices to guide the soul through the afterlife. Priests who were adept at these practices used sacred geometry and divine symbols to invoke the protective power of the gods during the ritual. The pyramids themselves were seen as powerful spiritual tools aligned with the stars and were believed to act as conduits for the soul's journey to the heavens. These geometric structures were not only tombs but also ritual centers that facilitated the spiritual ascension of the deceased and their safe passage into the afterlife. It was believed that the very design of the pyramid allowed the soul to travel upward, transcending the material realm. Similarly, ceremonial music and chants played a crucial role in ancient rituals, including those used for astral projection. Hymns dedicated to the gods, with their harmonic frequencies, were believed to alter the vibrational state of the body and mind, facilitating the release of the soul from the physical body. Priests and shamans would often chant sacred mantras and intonations, using rhythm and sound to induce trance-like states, which were essential for astral travel. In ancient Greece, the practice of astral projection was not only tied to religious and mystical rites, but also to the philosophical teachings of schools like Pythagoreanism and Neoplatonism. Pythagoras and his followers believed in the purification of the soul through ascetic practices and spiritual discipline. They used rituals that included fasting, breathing exercises, and meditations to prepare the body and mind for the experience of astral projection. These rituals were thought to cleanse the practitioner of earthly distractions, allowing them to achieve the mental clarity required for soul travel. Another tool used in ancient Greece was the incense or fragrant oils used in religious ceremonies to heighten spiritual awareness and facilitate astral projection. The smoke and scent were believed to act as conduits for the soul's departure from the body. Similar to other cultures, Greek mystery cults, such as the Eleusinian mysteries, employed psychoactive substances often mixed with sacred oils or herbs as part of their rituals. These substances were intended to alter consciousness and help the initiate transcend physical reality and enter higher states of being. The use of sacred plants to aid in spiritual journeys is something that can be found in many ancient cultures, particularly where astral projection or soul travel was practiced. In ancient India, the use of mantras, visualizations, and meditative practices were the primary tools used for inducing astral projection. The sound vibrations created by chanting specific syllables, particularly the Om mantra, were believed to open the energy channels of the body and facilitate the release of the soul. Meditative techniques focused on the activation of chakras, particularly the third eye, Ajna chakra, which was thought to be the seat of spiritual insight and psychic ability. When the third eye is activated, the practitioner is said to gain the ability to see beyond the physical world, allowing the soul to journey to higher realms. The art of astral projection was not a random or haphazard practice, but one that required dedication, discipline, and a spiritual path to master. The ability to leave the physical body and travel through other realms was not something that could be easily achieved, and it was considered a deeply sacred and esoteric practice. In many ancient traditions, only those who were spiritually advanced, initiated into secret rites, or guided by trained teachers could master this ability. The process of mastering astral projection was deeply intertwined with the journey towards spiritual enlightenment, self-realization, and divine connection. In ancient Egypt, those who sought to master astral projection often began their journey through the priesthood. The priests and priestesses were trained in sacred rituals that included not only the knowledge of the divine, but also advanced meditative practices. These individuals underwent long periods of initiation, which involved both physical and spiritual purification. The rituals of purification and ascetic practices were designed to prepare the body and mind for the intense spiritual work required to achieve astral travel. Through meditation and ritual, the initiates would learn to detach their consciousness from the body, allowing the soul to journey beyond the physical world. The training process for mastering astral projection in ancient Egypt was not just about the mechanics of soul travel, but was seen as part of a larger spiritual evolution. Initiates were taught to align themselves with the divine laws of the universe, to understand the cycles of life and death, and to gain insight into the workings of the cosmos. Through mastering astral projection, the priesthood believed they could attain higher knowledge and connect directly with the gods, gaining access to divine wisdom and cosmic truths that were hidden from ordinary people. Similarly, in ancient Greece, the pursuit of astral projection was tied to the quest for philosophical enlightenment. Greek philosophers like Pythagoras and Plato viewed the soul as something that could transcend the physical realm through meditative practices and ascetic living. In the Pythagorean school, students were taught how to achieve purification of the soul through practices that involved fasting, meditation, and intense concentration. These practices helped the student to detach from the physical world, allowing the soul to ascend to higher realms of thought and understanding. In Plato's philosophy, the soul's journey was seen as a process of returning to the divine. According to his teachings, the physical body was a prison for the soul, and the true purpose of life was to free the soul through contemplation and the pursuit of knowledge. This belief echoed the principles of astral projection, where the soul leaves the body to seek higher truths and connect with the divine. For those who mastered these techniques, astral travel became a means of divine communion, a tool to understand the workings of the cosmos and the nature of existence. In India, the pursuit of astral projection was linked to the deep study and practice of yoga and meditation. In Hinduism and Buddhism, the soul was understood to be capable of traveling to other realms through spiritual discipline. The practice of yoga, particularly the branch of Raja Yoga, emphasized controlling the mind and body to achieve higher states of consciousness. As practitioners mastered meditation and the awakening of the Kundalini energy, they were believed to be able to experience out-of-body journeys and transcend the limitations of their physical forms. The ultimate goal of these practices was enlightenment, the realization of one's divine nature and union with the universe. The journey of mastering astral projection was not simply about escaping the body, but about transcending the material world and gaining access to divine knowledge. The belief was that astral projection allowed the practitioner to experience divine realms, communicate with higher beings, and gain spiritual insight into the mysteries of the universe. In the Tantric tradition, the path to mastering astral projection involved intense meditation and the control of prana, life force energy. Tantric practices sought to awaken the Kundalini, a dormant spiritual energy at the base of the spine. Through specific breathing techniques, mantras, and visualizations, the energy was directed upwards through the chakras, facilitating spiritual awakening and astral travel. For Tantric practitioners, astral projection was not just a method of soul exploration, but a means of achieving the ultimate spiritual goal, moksha, or liberation from the cycle of birth and rebirth. Throughout history, the concept of astral projection has been deeply embedded in sacred texts, myths, and religious symbols. The ability of the soul to leave the body and journey to other realms is a recurring theme in many ancient civilizations, and these beliefs are often conveyed through intricate symbolism and powerful imagery. From the Egyptian Book of the Dead to Greek philosophy and Indian texts, the idea of astral travel was not just a spiritual concept, but a deeply ingrained part of cultural and religious practices. In ancient Egypt, one of the most detailed and significant sources of knowledge about the soul's journey is the Book of the Dead. This funerary text, often placed in the tombs of the deceased, was designed to guide the soul through the afterlife and ensure its safe passage to the realm of the gods. The text is filled with rituals, prayers, and spells that help the deceased navigate the various trials and obstacles in the afterlife, some of which are akin to the challenges faced during astral projection. The soul's ability to leave the body and travel through Duat, the Egyptian underworld, is a central theme in these texts. In the Book of the Dead, the deceased is often depicted as a spiritual traveler, journeying through the cosmic realms and encountering gods, spirits, and guardians along the way. This journey mirrors the practice of astral projection, where the soul leaves the physical form and embarks on a voyage of enlightenment, purification, and ultimate union with the divine. The spells and prayers included in the text are meant to ensure that the soul remains safe during its journey. Much like how modern practitioners of astral projection use rituals and protection techniques to safeguard their consciousness while exploring other planes. The pyramid texts, which predate the Book of the Dead, also emphasize the soul's journey and the importance of achieving divine union. These texts were inscribed on the walls of the pyramids and offered a similar vision of the afterlife, one in which the soul ascends through the heavens, guided by the gods, and ultimately becomes one with the divine light of Ra, the sun god. The symbolism of ascending through the heavens is closely related to the practice of astral projection, in which the practitioner's consciousness rises above the physical body and connects with higher realms of existence. In ancient Greece, the idea of the soul's journey and its ability to transcend the body was explored in the works of philosophers like Plato and Pythagoras. Plato's Phaedo discusses the concept of the soul's immortality and its potential to separate from the body, especially at the time of death. In this dialogue, Plato describes the soul's ability to ascend to the realm of the forms, a higher reality that exists beyond the physical world. Though not explicitly described as astral projection, Plato's idea of the soul traveling to higher realms shares many similarities with modern understandings of the practice. In addition, mystery cults such as the Orphic and Pythagorean traditions emphasize the purification of the soul through meditation, asceticism, and mystical practices. These traditions believed that the soul could separate from the body during deep meditation and travel to the divine realm. In these traditions, the soul's journey was seen as a path of purification and enlightenment, a process that allowed the individual to access hidden knowledge and transcend the limitations of the physical world. The sacred symbols and rituals of these cults were designed to facilitate this journey, providing the tools necessary for astral projection and spiritual awakening. In ancient India, the concept of astral projection is most clearly articulated through the practices of yoga and meditation. The sacred texts of Hinduism and Buddhism, such as the Upanishads, the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, and various tantric texts, describe the soul's journey as one of spiritual ascent and divine communion. These texts emphasize the importance of controlling the mind and body to facilitate the process of soul travel. Techniques such as pranayama, breathing exercises, dhyana, meditation, and mantras, sacred chants, are employed to calm the mind, open the chakras, and allow the soul to leave the body and travel to higher realms. In the modern world, the ancient art of astral projection has experienced a resurgence of interest. Although it was once considered an esoteric practice reserved for mystics and spiritual initiates, it has now become a topic of widespread fascination for people of all backgrounds. The rediscovery of astral projection in the modern age has been facilitated by a combination of spiritual exploration, psychology, and New Age practices, as well as a growing interest in self-awareness and personal development. The modern rediscovery of astral projection can be traced to several factors, including the rise of alternative spirituality in the 20th century, the development of lucid dreaming techniques, and the increasing use of meditative practices to access altered states of consciousness. While the ancient teachings of astral projection were often secretive and closely guarded by religious orders or spiritual elites, modern seekers now have access to a wide range of information and techniques for achieving out-of-body experiences. One of the main ways in which astral projection has become accessible to the modern world is through the study of consciousness and altered states. Modern psychologists and researchers have begun to explore the phenomenon of out-of-body experiences, OBEs, and have found that these experiences are not just mystical or spiritual in nature, but can be explained through neuroscience and psychology. The study of OBEs has helped to bridge the gap between ancient spiritual practices and modern scientific understanding. Lucid dreaming, the practice of becoming aware of one's dreams while still in the dream state, has also played a role in the modern rediscovery of astral projection. Many of the techniques used in lucid dreaming, such as dream control and conscious awareness, are similar to those used in astral projection. Through dream journaling, meditation, and visualization, modern practitioners can learn to separate their consciousness from the physical body and explore other realms during sleep. The growing popularity of lucid dreaming in the modern world has contributed to the acceptance of astral projection as a legitimate practice for spiritual exploration and personal growth. In addition to lucid dreaming, modern meditation techniques, particularly those derived from yoga and mindfulness, have helped individuals access the altered states of consciousness required for astral projection. Techniques such as guided meditation, breathing exercises, and deep relaxation allow practitioners to enter a trance-like state where the boundaries between the physical body and the astral body begin to dissolve. The use of these techniques enables individuals to consciously leave the body and journey through the astral plane, much like the practices described in ancient texts. The role of technology in the rediscovery of astral projection cannot be understated. Brainwave entrainment technology, which uses audio signals to influence brainwave activity, has become a popular tool for inducing the altered states necessary for astral projection. Programs designed to create specific brainwave patterns, such as binaural beats and isochronic tones, help listeners enter deep states of relaxation and heightened consciousness, facilitating the experience of out-of-body journeys. These technologies provide a more accessible way for individuals to access the deep states of mind required for astral travel, even if they lack previous experience with meditation or spiritual practices. In the last few decades, there has been a surge of interest in astral projection workshops and online communities dedicated to the practice. Books, videos, and articles on the topic of astral projection have proliferated, making the knowledge once restricted to ancient traditions available to anyone interested in exploring the phenomenon. These resources often provide step-by-step instructions for achieving astral projection, offering techniques such as mental visualization, sleep paralysis, and out-of-body exercises to help individuals separate their consciousness from their physical bodies. In addition to individual practitioners, many spiritual teachers and healers incorporate astral projection into their teachings. Modern spiritual teachers such as Robert Monroe, author of Journeys Out of the Body, and William Buhlman have helped to popularize the practice in the West. Monroe's Monroe Institute, which conducts research into consciousness and out-of-body experiences, has become a well-known resource for those seeking to understand and master astral projection. His work has laid the foundation for modern practices of astral travel and has bridged the gap between spirituality and science.